join us today.
Yeah, I'm
Really
excited.
appreciate that. Viewers, I want to welcome you today. We got something very special for the Single Parent Review Show. We have a young man, Jay Skibbens. He is a parenting coach, has a lot of wonderful advice, and here's a little something about him.
Jay Skibbens is a co-parenting single dad to two boys. He has a background in teaching and social work. His amazing experiences and unique life journey propelled him to build an entire coaching business dedicated to taking the pain out of co-parenting. Now, he helps co-parents create their ideal future despite what the other parent says or does.
And we're back. So, Jay, first of all, thank you again for joining us today. And, I just got a few questions for you. And hopefully, you can help our viewers out and everything. Being a single father, what do you feel is the most challenging part of it?
Um, I've thought about this a lot since you sent over some questions, and it's changed. I would say right now my kids are 6 and 8, basically. My 7-year-old turns 8 next Friday. And what I'm realizing is that I'm really good with the structure. I'm really good with like getting them on like to bed on time, getting their teeth brushed. I'm good at like the guy stuff too. We play sports together, we wrestle. But I think that sometimes I've realized lately that like the kind of like the feminine touch, like the softer side. Like I'm good with emotions, but there are
Hmm.
certain times that like I've really been thinking lately that like I I would benefit from having like a softer side to help out with, because it's there are times I feel like I'm almost too hard. It's hard for me to let go of like the let's push, let's push, let's push. I almost sometimes just wish there was somebody there who was like, hey Jay, like just remember they're kids. Just like let them be a little bit. So it's just that you only have one perspective when you're doing it by yourself.
Do you feel that as a father, because I find myself sometimes that we feel like we have to be a little stern, especially when we're dealing with boys?
Well, it's we have a voice. I think that there's a difference. I've always worked with kids, and even when I was younger and I was working with women who were older than me and that who were established in that field, the male voice just carries a weight when it gets strong, or when it gets like when it's given instructions. There's just a gravity to it. So sometimes you can just use that voice of like even before I got on here, I was like I got my little bit more serious voice on. I was like, hey guys, sometimes when I'm on a coaching call, I know you guys walk in, but like, this is a serious one. I don't want to be interrupted during this one. I know like they knew from my voice that this was a time not to push that boundary. But yeah, I think that, especially with my older son, because of how good I can see him becoming and like what I envisioned for him, it really
Hmm.
can be a challenge not to push too hard, because then it's like then I'm almost like dimming his shine because I'm pushing so hard. He doesn't want to mess up. So to me, there's like a real important balance that I have to try to strike between like, okay, we're gonna push, 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 but also be soft and like help them through the times that it doesn't go well.
Okay. Round about what age would you say you were when you became a single parent?
So I have a fairly interesting journey into fatherhood. I was 26 when the mom of the boys got pregnant with Elliot, my older son, and we weren't actually together. Like it was I don't know if you're familiar with the term friends with benefits, but it was mostly like a relationship with just the sexual side of it. So we
Hmm.
never were together. Um, so we actually started co-parenting from the start. We decided that it worked better that way, that we weren't going to try to make it work for the kids. So, during the pregnancy, like I would help out, cook, do things like that. And then when Ellie was a baby, up until about 6 months, I would just go over and spend time with them. I might take them for a couple of hours so she could get some rest. But we started doing overnights when he was 6 months old. So like really from the jump, our co-parenting relationship, started off.
And how did you overcome your biggest hurdle of being a newly single parent? Because it's that wow factor, right? Knowing that your life is no longer exists now because you have a child in your life now.
Yeah, I think that for me, one of the hardest things that I had to overcome was, like that my kids didn't have to become a statistic. Like this idea that like because she's not well off at the time. I'm still not well off. I'm doing better now, but I'm not super well off now. I'm a brown man. She's a brown woman. I really had to like battle like these like the pressure of the statistics of like okay, what are the future thoughts, like what are they going to be like in school? Are they going to be successful? Are they going to have trouble? Are they going to struggle? So for me, it was really one of the earlier obstacles was just to kind of like trust that things were going to be okay, that like the kids were going to be okay, that we were going to figure it out. And once you allow yourself to let go of some of those fears and some of those concerns, you can just focus on becoming like the parent you want to become. And like that's what I really truly believe is that if you want to become a better parent, just like become a better you. Like, there's nothing you can do that like specifically helps parenting that wouldn't start with just doing it for yourself. Like if you want to be more understanding or more patient, be more understanding with yourself, be more patient with yourself, and that will translate into your kids like 100%.
Okay. All right. Well, what was your support system for our viewers?
So I was raised by a single mom, and she was instrumental. Still, I mean, I live in Illinois, Central Illinois, and she lives in Texas now. And but through the first 4-5 years of being a dad, she was huge. To be able to talk to be able to watch with the boys. I lived with her for about 3 years when the boys were young, and she took that up. Like it wasn't like oh no, you're not married, so I'm not helping. It was like, hey, this is what happened. I'm going to support you. She was 100% amazing throughout the whole thing. I have an older sister who's 10 years older, so a bit more established in life. She was and still is very, very helpful. So as far as like, I've always had somebody to kind of help watch the kids. Maybe not, anytime I need it, but almost anytime I need someone to watch the kids. I've got that. I've got a good group of guy friends that, I'm probably the most established, head-on parent out of the group of us. But like honestly, just having a group of friends, a lot of people, they become parents and they lose their friend group or like they drift apart. And I can honestly say that like, it took one of our core group of friends passing away 4 years ago. But like, I feel like my friend group is as close as ever that has ever been. So having them to just like be guys with and, kind of, be Jay. Like, I'm not always just a dad. And with them, I'm just me. So like being able to kind of switch off, that's a huge thing too. So I will say I have been incredibly blessed with the support system and the people I have in my life.
So would you say that, being a dad, first of all, you mentioned your mother, you was raised by a single parent. Do you feel that the roles reverse a little bit, meaning that your mother, she had to play the mother and the father, and then now you're a father. Do you sometimes feel that you have to play the father and a mother role to your kids?
I think for me, that's a personal thing that I just don't subscribe to. Like, I don't like saying that I play both roles because one, my kids have a mom. So I don't want to take anything away from her. She very much is a very big part of their life. They love her. She loves them. So I'm not doing it alone. My mom did it fully alone. Like I've only met my dad 3 times and like only 2 of them that I remember. So I will say that like I think that like looking back on my mom's experience as a parent, that she would have benefited from a partner that like, I got really good at like talking my way out of trouble with her. I pushed the boundaries with her. I think that she was very good at the love, the soft side of things. Like she instilled a great amount of love in me. But she was not the best at like putting her foot down and like letting it know, like, hey, Jay, this is enough. You need to, like, she didn't have the dad voice. And I think that, so for me, part of what I also do is that I have women who are friends, women who I've dated, that I feel comfortable like having them around my kids. And I think that they add that layer. I truly believe I don't need to be anything that I'm not.
Right.
But like, Kanye West is one of my favorite rappers or artists. And I think that he's amazing at like putting people where they belong and like bringing out the best in them. And like, he'll put somebody on a song and like, oh my gosh, this person's amazing. To me, that's like kind of how I view parenting, is that like, I know my strengths and I know my weaknesses. So I kind of try to bring people into my life and keep people in my life that I feel like add benefit to my life and therefore add benefit to my kids' lives too.
Well, once again, to our viewers, we're talking with Jay Skibbens on. I know it's a belated Father's Day, but we're considering this Father's Day month, and very appreciative. So, Jay, for our viewers, what kind of advice would you be able to give as far as co-parenting? Like, what are the challenges? What are the benefits? And and so on.
Well, a big thing that, I think that if I could speak to dads for, specifically dads for a second, it's one of the toughest things that happens in a divorce or a split or co-parenting is it could become harder to make mistakes. It could be harder to like mess up and either, own up to it or feel like you're still doing a good job. And I know that like, especially during like a custody case, mistakes can be magnified in court and like used against you. But like from both sides, like, if you're the primary caretaker, you learn through mistakes. Like I'm not the parent I am today because I got it all right. Like I love being a parent, but I get it wrong a lot. I have to, I apologize, I learn, I adapt, I keep trying to understand why I do things. So to me, what I've learned, through my own experiences and now through coaching, is that like that idea that like that dads take a step back or like that like aren't as actively involved. A lot of that can come down to this fear of making a mistake and fear of it being like known or not being as good of a parent when maybe you don't have as much practice. Maybe in the relationship, if when you were together, you weren't doing a lot of like the hands-on parenting. So now that you have them alone, it's a bit tougher. It's a bit scarier. And, to be fair, that's something that like, men don't always feel comfortable talking about or sharing with other men. So to me, it's, getting a support group or, I host a conversation for dads that really dives into some of these things, because I really believe that like the more you're able to normalize these things and the more you're able to truly make the space for people to make mistakes, the better the relationship will be, because we all make mistakes. And if you're trying to hide yours or point out the other person's, you're going to make it real hard to have a healthy relationship. So like for dads, especially, be okay making mistakes. And then I feel like for like the co-parenting relationship in general, like it's really about focusing on yourself. Like the other person might share their emotions with you, might share their thoughts, but a lot of times what they share with you are projections of their own feelings. So the more work we can do on ourselves, the more work we can do to understand our feelings, to process our emotions and not take them to our co-parent anymore and not need validation or acknowledgement or this, we have to establish the new co-parenting relationship. We're not married anymore. We're not dating. They're not responsible for our emotions anymore. So
That is very profound.
The more we take responsibility for our own emotions, like the more you can communicate, because a lot of the breakdowns that I see in the fights and the arguments and the manipulation and the, labeling of narcissism or manipulation or things like that, it comes down to a breakdown in communication. And when your communication is rooted in emotion, it's real hard to do anything. So that, like, I know I said a lot, but that would be my overall.
No, that's great. That's great for our listeners. I really appreciate that. I know, like myself, being a single parent and being raised by a single parent, I made it a point, and I want to know: do you make it a point to where you know what you always wanted from your father, and he was never around, so you promised yourself you wasn't going to be that way? You were going to love on your children, support them, and be there for them, and everything like that.
Yeah. It's been a real honest exploration. Because I was there when my kids were born. So to me, the fact that I was there in the room, like from the first second they came out, even like through the pregnancy, I had already done more than my dad did. So, it was this like freedom. I will honestly say that, like, the way I have had to really look at my life and what has happened, whether that's my dad not being around, or the way that I actually became a dad, because there's like a twist in my story that not everybody sees coming. I had to see these things as gifts, and what I really see, like, from my dad not being around, is a gift that, like, he didn't plant seeds of negativity in me. He didn't plant seeds of like, uh, this is what a man needs to be, because clearly, like, he didn't know. And I have no judgment of, like, against him, but he didn't know what to do. So if he would have stuck around and learned, or kept screwing up, or kept being scared, that would have bled into me. And so I think that, like, the best thing he did was not be there, because then I got to create what I thought a man was. I got to create what I thought a dad was. And I'm really happy with where I've ended up. Like, I'm really happy with what I see in myself as a man and in myself as a dad, because I just parent the kids in front of me. I don't have this like archetype that I need to live up to. I know who I am, and I'm very, very confident in myself. And then I see these two humans in front of me who are like sort of alike and sort
Mhm.
of like me, but also like incredibly individuals. Like, they're just very much their own people. Like, they're not the exact same. So I can't even parent them the exact same. So for me, being a dad is like, I just gotta look at these kids and really see who they are. So I let them lead a lot. Like, I have my structure, I have my beliefs, but a lot of what we do is built off of who they are and what they need.
Viewers, are y'all listening to this man? This man just gave you a Bible verse of what it means to be a single parent and co-parenting and being a father. I love what you said about being a father, and that you don't hold anything against your own father for not being there, because there are some kids that grow up holding a grudge on their parent because their parent wasn't around, without knowing the complete truth about why they weren't around, or things like that. I tell you, to hear that coming from you, it speaks volumes. It
Well,
speaks volumes.
I appreciate that, because I think that we might not get into it here, but if you send me, I'm on Instagram, so if you follow me on Instagram, like, my journey to become a dad is filled with like my co-parent telling a pretty big lie, and then me having to get over that. And once I was able to really let that go, like, that was like a huge catalyst for me. With just you really do feel a weight come off of your shoulders, because I think that a lot of us, like, we carry things with us. And I don't know how much you've read into trauma, but and I've done light reading on it. I'm not an expert by any means, but they say that you carry trauma in your body. And there's times that I've just let go of things, and I can really feel like a weight,
Mm.
like, legitimately lift off my shoulders, and I can carry myself better. And it's almost like there's also a layer that comes off of my eyes that I can see people better. Like, I'm so much less judgmental than I was 2 years ago, and way more than 5 years ago, and an insane amount more than I was 10 years ago. I don't see people as like good, or I think everybody's good. I think
Mhm.
that the more I do this, I really understand that, like, the things that I hear that are so terrible that people have done, it's like there's a reason for those things. Like, there's a reason my dad made the choices that he made. I hope one day maybe I'll have a conversation with him, and I can just kind of tell him, like, hey, like, I get it, but yeah, like, I don't think that anybody makes like a decision to not be in their kid's life or hurt a co-parent or hurt a child, that's like a healthy, safe person, like that they feel safe. I think that those actions and those decisions come from a place of fear. They come from a place of pain. And if I'm going to judge you for being scared and being hurt, like, I don't know how that says anything better about me.
Now, you mentioned your boys and they got different personalities.
Yeah.
Do you feel that it's challenging sometimes as a single parent to treat them both the same, or or do you find yourself kind of treating them differently or showing any kind of favoritism, anything like that?
So I feel like your questions are like really what I'm working on, like in the moment. I do. My older one, my older one has a brain that works very much like mine. Like, I think that we see the world in a very similar way. I'll be transparent, and I think that we both we both walk into a situation and are like, what can I get out of it first? And then if that benefits other people, cool. Like, then we'll do that too. It's actually taken me a lot of work to get to a place where, like, I obviously coach, so I help. I have free spaces. It's taken me a lot of work to get to a place where I'm openly helping other people as well as myself. So what that also means is that I also can see the times that, like, that he thought it through, made a decision, and like didn't like kind of clean up the mess. Like, he'll make a mess, like figuratively or metaphorically, and just kind of leave it for somebody else. And that almost like triggers me, because I did that myself. I would make a lot of messes. I would learn through, kind of like destruction, to be completely honest. I was in pain as a child, and I feel like I caused a lot of pain. So, but I learned a lot through that. So for me, I'm kind of harder on him. Whereas my younger son is like this ball of like just good intentions, and just like he moves at a slower pace. He doesn't like he thinks about himself equally with other people. So whereas like my older son, I feel like I see myself in him, and I think that like that is helping me and will help us really bond really strongly. I feel like I learn a lot about like who I wish I would have been with my younger son. I think that my younger son very much embodies like what I think like love really does in the moments. Like, he's just a very present kid. And my older son and I are like trapped in our own heads of like, we're overthinking and overanalyzing. So it's hard to make a good decision sometimes.
I can tell you really love your kids. One thing I didn't tap into, and I'm going to tap into it right now, as far as co-parenting. Often you hear or you see that when you're co-parenting, the other sometimes put negative ideas in the kid's mind towards their father or towards their mother. How important is it to navigate around that and to be on the same page?
So, okay, so it's an interesting point, and I'll tackle the first thing. Is that what I talk to with the people I work with is that the only way that what your co-parent says about you, like the only way that that is true is if you make it true. So if they call you a liar, if they call you a terrible person, if they call you this or that, the only way that that is ever true is if you make it true. So to me, what I will often say is like, okay, so what if they called you a Toyota Camry? Like, would that upset you? Like, you're not a Toyota Camry. It just doesn't carry that weight because we don't attach that emotion to it. But if they call you a terrible mother or a terrible father, and you attach an emotion to that, then it becomes a lot harder to get over and a lot harder to kind of brush off your back. But if you're not a Toyota Camry and you're not a terrible mother or a terrible father, then it really shouldn't bother you very much. Mm-hmm. So to me, what I really focus on is like, what do I have control over? Like, what can I do? Because I could focus on trying to change my co-parent. I could focus on trying to get them to, talk nicer. I could try to, focus on them getting like what they deserve, like keeping them accountable. But any energy that I'm spending trying to change or fix or punish my co-parent is energy that I don't see and energy that my kids don't see. So a big thing that I believe in, a big thing that I practice and that I, work with my clients with is keep your energy. Like, don't especially if it's if it's not the best relationship right now, it can get better. But if it's not the relationship you want right now, focus that energy on yourself first, and then protect your space and leave their space alone and just see what happens. Because a lot of times when we try to control something and try to change something, we don't get results. It's like you're focused so much on the change, you're focused so much on the control. And if you just let go and focus that on yourself, then you have the chance to become happier regardless of what they're doing and regardless of what they're saying.
Wow. Jay, I tell you, man, how much is this going to cost me for this consultation?
Dude, I'm saying, like, the honest truth is that I've only been doing this for like a year and a half, and like my first post on Instagram was January 2021, and my first post on co-parenting wasn't until September of 2021. But like once I started talking about this stuff, man, this is like I will honestly say, have you seen the movie Good Will Hunting?
Yes.
Okay, so like I don't understand it, but like this is like co-parenting and communication and letting go and all of this. It's like the chalkboard that Will Hunting sees, and like he solves that math problem, when he's a janitor. And to me, this all just makes sense. Like the way that I see it, I feel like I can explain it, give perspective. It's like everybody is looking at this problem from this one perspective. And all my job is to just kind of scoot them to the side and have them look at it from a different way. And then their brain starts working and they're starting to see it and they can put the puzzle pieces together. But if you only stare at a problem one way, you don't give yourself the ability to change. You don't give yourself the opportunity to see it differently. You have to start shifting your perspectives and have to start looking at it a different way, because then you are the one coming up with the answer and you are the one figuring it out. I don't give answers. I don't give like what you should say or what you should do. I just give you a new perspective, and then you're empowered to make it work for you. And that way you create your own life that you are proud of. And after like 3 months with me, you got a whole life ahead of you. And wow. To me, that's the empowering piece that I like. Is my coaching, my parenting, and my it's all the same. I just see humans as people that we should empower and not judge and not like it. Man, I'm telling you, it's once you see it, it's all on one line.
Now, for our viewers, how can they get in contact with Jay Skibbens? So what is Jay Skibbens doing now? Yeah. And how can they reach you?
Yeah, so right now, the great thing is I'm only on Instagram. So find me like at Jay Skibbens. I have content there, videos there. You can message me there. I just started a couple of months ago a single parenting on purpose group on Facebook. That's just a community of single parents and co-parents. Because one thing I found is that we feel very isolated in the single parenting community. So there's about 700 people in that group, and it's just in a place to be able to ask questions, get advice, vent, and be heard and seen by other people that know exactly what you're going through. So it's either going to be Jay Skibbens on Instagram or Single Parenting on Purpose on Facebook. And that way you can find like how to work with me as far as coaching goes. And the cool thing right now is that if you start following me right now and you get in right now, I've got a lot of cool things set up coming in the future that I can't quite divulge yet, but it's going to be affordable options. It's going to be ebooks. It's going to be like a lot of there's like an empire I'm building with this thing, man. It's coming.
Well, I tell you, I know the viewers are going to be contacting you. So be expecting that, and be prepared for that. Jay, you are amazing. God has something good in store for you and your boys.
Well, thanks. And I like giving them the shout out, because, and that's, I wouldn't be doing this and I wouldn't be here without them. And that means I wouldn't be here without their mom. So her choices led to this too, just as much as mine. So I just picked it up and ran with it.
So once again, viewers, hey, this has been a conversation with Jay Skibbens. It's been awesome. I hope you listen to this man very clearly what he was saying, because he was preaching. He was preaching today. We went to church today. Okay, Jay, thank you, buddy. I appreciate that.
I appreciate you, Derek, man. This was a really cool opportunity. I appreciate you a lot.
Yes, you have a wonderful rest of your Friday and a wonderful weekend, and keep loving your boys.
Thanks, man. I will.
All right.